Well, in Vancouver, British Columbia, a court case to prove the existence of Sasquatch began in the Supreme Court of British Columbia. Todd Standings, represented by Troy Hunter of the Columbia law firm, will attempt to prove in a court of law that the species, commonly referred to as Bigfoot, does in fact exist. In a moment, Todd Standings joins us on Coast to Coast AM. And welcome back to Coast. George Norrie with you. Let me tell you a little bit about Todd Standings. For the past 10-plus years, Todd has been conducting expeditions, documenting chronicles, interviewing people regarding the subject of Sasquatch. Back in 2006, he publicly showed 2 crystal-clear Bigfoot videos that he himself filmed, and he has used to petition the Canadian government for the species protection of Bigfoot. If you get up to coasttocoastam.com, look at some of the graphics and visuals we have from Todd. Absolutely riveting. And as I mentioned, he's involved in a court case. We're going to talk about that now, too. Todd, welcome back to the program.
Yeah, thanks for having me, George.
Now, tell us about the court case. Started a day or so ago, but what's happening? Is it still in court? Did they keep it? What's up?
Well, the judge has to render his decision. We basically... we waited all day to talk to a judge. Our case was going to be a long case. Like, they had a lot to discuss, and my lawyer, I didn't want him getting cut short because basically what they do here in Canada is based on precedents, the judge will decide whether it goes to trial or not, which is really difficult because we're talking about something that's, there really isn't any precedents even close to matching this. So finding precedents was very difficult, and the judge we ended up with was not the judge we were hoping for, and he was very difficult and really hard on my lawyer. And but I mean, I guess justifiably so. It's a tough subject, and it was just hard. And my lawyer fought through it as best he could, and the judge was really so hard on him. So he was so nice on the defense and let them just do their case, and with us, he just hammered the hell out of us. And we'll see what happens. If we have one branch, if we have one precedence, the judge will say, okay, this goes to trial. Then the trial, I win or lose based on my evidence, and there's no chance I'll lose in court. There's no way.
Now, but when you go to trial, Todd, there's a defendant and there's not, and the plaintiff. In this case, what do we have here?
Well, I'm the plaintiff. I'm accusing Fish and Wildlife of being derelict in their duty to recognize this indigenous species.
So you're attempting to sue them.
Right, I am. And,
okay.
And it's not about money. That's one thing that maybe was damaging to me, is the judge is like, why are you doing this? I said, because I want it known that they're not doing their job, they're not doing their duty, and I'd like the judge to make a recommendation for them to do a 3-month ecological survey, which is what they do with wildlife all the time, where I take them out and I show them everything about Sasquatch, like I've done with Jeff Meldrum, the amazing professor from Idaho State University, John Bindernagel, Survivor Man, and half a dozen other PhDs and biologists. I take people out and I show them Sasquatch, like in my documentary, Discovering Bigfoot, which I think is tremendously significant, the way Jeff Meldrum actually saw a Sasquatch and the fortuitous events that transpired where he told me approximately where he saw it, and then I went to go look for a trackway, and I didn't find it where he told me to look. I found a trackway somewhere else, and upon looking at it and reviewing the footage later, he was like, you know what? I told you the wrong place to go. If you would have found a trackway down there, I didn't see a Sasquatch down there. I saw exactly where you found a trackway. So those events that transpired even further indicate clearly that he'd seen a Sasquatch and the way it moved and everything that happened. I mean, and I did it on Survivor Man. I on national TV, Survivor Men filmed the top of the head of a Sasquatch, and Fish and Wildlife, this is, to me, it's like police witnessing a crime, and then they don't go investigate it. It's their job to investigate crimes. And there's no excuse about, well, this is a new kind of animal. No, you know what? Police investigate new crimes all the time. When the Internet came on, they had to investigate new Internet crimes. New criminal activities are happening all the time. It's Fish and Wildlife's job to investigate anything to do with wildlife. And there are, even especially in British Columbia, in the last couple of years, there's a police officer that saw a Sasquatch twice, and he was scaring it off. It was banging on somebody's house. He was trying to scare it off, and he's terrified. He didn't know what to do. The media picked it up and ran a story. This is a police officer who was on duty, called because a Sasquatch was smashing on somebody's house, scared it off on 2 separate occasions. Where was Fish and Wildlife? This is a police officer on duty. If he's lying, he should be fired. I don't think he's lying.
I don't think he's lying either. And they should give some of these people, Todd, polygraph tests just to even back up even more their story.
Well, you know what? I did a polygraph test, and I passed it with such high numbers. This is what they said. They said either he really believes what he's saying, he's telling the truth, or he's some kind of liar. There's a pathological liar. So you know what people say? They take the pathological liar. That's all they mention, right? So even the lie detector test, just in my experience, I mean, I passed it, and of course I get passed off as a pathological liar who believes his lies. So it seems like so many things that you do, you try so hard, and people can just turn it against you and twist it, and even that police officer, he's getting ridiculed and mocked, and people are accusing him of being drunk on duty or something ridiculous like that, and he wasn't. He was just terrified. He got totally scared.
Of course. Who wouldn't be?
The house and saw a Sasquatch. He didn't know what to do. Shoot it? Like, he turned on his lights and flashed a light on it, revved up the engine, beeped his horn, and it ran off. So, and then where's Fish and Wildlife? It's not his job. He's a police officer. That's a wildlife issue, and Fish and Wildlife never showed up, never even thought about going out there to investigate, and that's a dereliction of duty, and they do it every day. They've been doing it with me for 12 years. They've never come out.
Todd, with this case, were you able to find any information or any employees within the Department of Fish and Wildlife who would admit this?
Yes, I have one person who has to admit it. He was on national television about it. He's a fishery officer that was on duty that saw a Sasquatch so vividly, like he drove his boat up on it, and he was maybe 20 meters away. It stood up in plain view and looked at him. He backed off of his boat, stood there and watched it for like 3 minutes until it turned around and walked away, and there was a trackway. Again, the media shows up. The media does the story. And where's Fish and Wildlife? Nowhere to be found, not doing their job. If this was some kind of crime and the police officers didn't show up, they'd get fired, or, their heads would roll. Why is Fish and Wildlife allowed to be completely derelict in their duty? They've been getting away with it for decades, and I'm not mad at them. It's their policy, and they've done such a good job of saying nothing and having no official. If they say Sasquatch isn't real, then I can sue them, because now they're calling me a fraud. They're literally saying that my work is fake, and now I can go after them. But since
they're calling you a liar.
Well, but they have to say something first. Their official position is no comment.
See, they know how to protect themselves, Todd.
They do, and that's their policy right across the board. I just dealing with the judge yesterday. He's like, you have one statement, anything of any kind, I'll let you go to trial if you have one piece of evidence that even says them denying it. And there's nothing anywhere that we've found to date. So, and that's a lot about what this court case is too. I need to know what the judge wants, what's necessary. I need to have proper documentation. And even if this doesn't work this time, I live in Alberta. I've lived in Alberta half my life, right beside British Columbia. I can go right across the border and go do my case there, and I will, but that'll be after California. I have to do California next. So,
when you were in court, what type of evidence were you able to present?
None. They basically, both trial lawyers agree that I have significant evidence that may or not be true. And the judge goes, good. And he doesn't want to hear about the DNA. He doesn't want to hear about the eyewitness testimony, the forensic evidence. He doesn't want to hear about any of it. He wants to know about a precedent case study that's been done before that applies to this case so we can send it to trial. Because it's like his ass is on the line. He has to have good reason to send it to trial. And finding precedents in a case like this, I mean, we were using tobacco, civil rights issues. It's hard, even using Native Americans' terminologies and their oral history as a civil rights issue to say that they're being degraded in the non-acknowledgement of this. So it's, what, now I can see. I mean, the other thing too is the lawyers on Fish and Wildlife, they hit us like a sledgehammer. Like this, we put a delay on this case. We weren't ready, and they accepted no delays. They just hammered this right through. They sent me an email saying, we're saying this is frivolous. We're going to charge you with court fees. We're going to charge with our legal fees. We've got tons of lawyers working on this. The legal fees are going to be enormous. You better know what you're doing. And if you win to send it to trial, we're appealing it and appealing it. We're never going to let this go to trial, and you're going to pay all those court fees.
Why can't they just say, we think there's a creature out there, Todd. We don't know what it is. Let's all work together and find out. Why can't they do that?
The conspiracies are, remember that my colleagues are PhDs, professors, and they don't like it when I go into conspiracy possibilities because it's a paranormal subject, and that's upsetting enough because it's a real species. It shouldn't be paranormal. And to add conspiracies to it just makes it worse. It just makes it a bigger, rabbit hole. But, it's, what happens when you recognize a new species? There's going to be all this new research. They're going to shut down logging and mining possibly. I don't want that to happen. I don't think there's any need. I understand people lose their jobs and industry has to move forward, and industry is there now. It can continue. We can do this research without stopping industry in any way, shape, or form. The Sasquatch live in the harshest backcountry environments. They have no tolerance for human habitation. They're not around logging sites and mining. They're not, they're far enough away that we can leave them where they are, not stop industry, and push forward with this discovery, no matter where it leads us. Because the biggest problem that I can tell you that's a fact is this species, they're trackers. They're highly intelligent. They live together in groups. They have little communities, and they are so human-like. I mean, they're the most man-like primate.
Well, I was going to ask you, Todd, if you think they're more human than animal, and sounds like it's human, huh? Yeah.
Well, I mean, a homo, we call them Homo americanus, the original indigenous homo species that survived here in North America. But you gotta, from my perspective, you gotta know. I mean, I know they're real. The people I work with know it. And how do they hide? And the answer is they're just incredibly astute in the wilderness. And the more I learn as a wilderness tracker myself, I can tell what a squirrel's chirping at. I know what the birds are moving. I know why the deer stop moving. If you're a Sasquatch and you're born and raised in that environment, you have to get past the birds and the deer and the squirrels and the pine martens and everything that exists before you can get anywhere near a Sasquatch. And I think the likelihood of that is pretty much near impossible. So that's what people have to understand, why it's so easy for them to evade. It's so easy for them to hide from us because all they do is live in the wilderness, and they teach their offspring. They're trackers. There's never been a tracker besides human beings in the existence of any species, a bipedal tracker, and I've seen them tracking. In fact, I've seen them tracking. I was trained by a Northern Cree elder who does a specific kind of tracking. It's called heart tracking that I'm learning and practicing, and I've seen them move the way my Cree elder tracker moved. I've seen them move their hands, follow a trackway. Like they're incredibly advanced. And in fact, like most people should know, the natives were the best trackers ever. Back in the old West days, it was always the natives that were doing tracking, always, because they're the best. When Geronimo disappeared, the white people couldn't find him. The trackers had no problem. Those Indian trackers will tell you that the Sasquatch is a superior tracker to them. So, you're dealing with a level of intelligence and amazing, like they hide their tracks. Whenever you go look at those lists of tracks, they always have this picture of tracks, and on every tracker that teaches tracking, always their slogan is animals don't hide their tracks. And I love to always say, you know what, because Sasquatch have hidden their tracks, they hide them brilliantly because they're an amazing tracker, which takes them, as you said before, are the animals. I think it takes them right off that animal list. Mm-hmm. Animals are not hiding their tracks, and Sasquatch are constantly doing it. I'm an expert tracker, and they have no trouble evading me and hiding their tracks from me because they're such a, the natives are a level above me, and then the Sasquatch are another level above that.
I bet they've been watching you, Todd, when you're in the woods.
Oh, they know I'm coming. Oh my God! I take people out on expedition, and what I tell them is, I'm a student of these great teachers. I have nothing they want. They're not interested in my technology. They fear it. They think technology has made human beings insane. And
they may be right.
It's you see it. Well, even if you sat down with a Sasquatch and said, we don't know you exist, and the Sasquatch would say, "What are you talking about? Like 20 people have seen me." Well, when a human sees you and he goes tell other humans, they all think he's lying. What about all the tree breaks I put out? Well, we think those are natural. What about the structure I made over there? Yeah, people think that trees just naturally fell and twisted and bent together and flipped upside down like that. And you'd look at me and go, "Wow, you really are dumb." There's no other, And when they teach me stuff and when I'm learning things from them, every time I learn something, it's just an epiphany. I go, "Oh my God, I can't believe they did this, and how amazing is it?" And that's the experience that I have out there, and that's why I'm having such good success with them, because I really come off like I act like a rogue Sasquatch coming into a new Sasquatch troop, because that has to happen to prevent inbreeding. And I also act like a humble student of theirs. And once they realize that they just dominate me and I accept it, and I want them to teach me, then I get these great interactions, and I've been having a tremendous success. And it's those two things combined with my love of the wilderness. I can go out in the wilderness and survive for a week and just eat berries and live off the land. And you're right, they are watching me. And they see that love, and they see the passion that I have for the wilderness and the respect. And we're kindred spirits in that sense, because they love the wilderness. They love the trees and the forests and the animals. And if you don't have that passion, you have nothing in common with them, and there's really nowhere to go.
They're probably trying to figure you out.
Well, yeah.
Because you're not like most humans out there, I bet.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, I always thought I was like the Xbox or the movie of the week because I'm entertaining, right? Let's see what we could. I always feel like they're trying to teach me something, and I'm trying to learn it. And they're like, "Let's see if we can teach him this today. Let's see if we can get through to him." And that's just the cat and mouse game, and they're always the cat. And doing things that perplex me. I know I'm always getting people asking me to do TV shows, Discovery Channel, History Channel, and they always want me to do write-ups about what's going to happen. And I laugh, and I go, "You know what? I'll write up something for you. But when I go out there and the Sasquatch do what they do, it's going to blow your mind. Like, they are so amazing. And I will move to the next level and learn the new thing they're teaching me. But it's so absolutely amazing. Like, even right now, we did one expedition this year, and we're going to do more. I'm entirely perplexed. I don't know what to do as the next step. And I'm talking to people about it, and it's just, it's hard, because I do feel, so I go home and sleep in my bed and, use electronics, and they never leave the wilderness. And I hope people can understand, when you're that connected, when you're born and raised in the wilderness, you're taught by wilderness experts, and you live your whole life there, the level of expertise that you're going to have, you're going to be spiritually and intellectually connected to the earth in ways that I will never understand. I'm not capable of it. I'm not instinctively bred for the wilderness the way they are. You know what I mean? If you put me naked out in the bush, I'd be dead in a week. If you did that with a Sasquatch, you could come back in 10 years and he'd be flourishing, because he's built for it. And it goes much deeper than that. When you're built for it, your feet are always touching the ground. You're drinking the water. You're living off animals and the land. You're so connected that you go try to compete with them on that level. You are going to lose big time. So
the Bigfoot community, Todd, must not be that big, though, I would guess.
The numbers of Sasquatch that are out there? Yeah, no, I would. In my documentary, I estimated 15,000 just because it was a nice round number to compare with the 15 million people that live in the same area.
In North America, 15,000 in North America?
Yeah, that was my guess. I think I'm probably, maybe I would say about half that would be more realistic. So, but I do think there are good numbers, especially when you start going north of Vancouver and up into Alaska. I think there's... All
right, hold on for a second, Todd. We're at a break. We'll come back and talk more. I want to get into your career, what got you researching Sasquatch, and we'll take calls later on tonight on Coast to Coast AM. And welcome back to Coast. George Norrie with you with Todd Standing. Todd's website linked up at coasttocoastam.com. Take a look at some of the pictures that we've got from Todd. Todd, how long have you been researching Sasquatch, and what got you into it?
Well, I was a biology student at the University of Alberta, and I had tons of years of wilderness and tracking experience. and I wanted to go prove that Sasquatch couldn't exist in the ecology. There was no niche for a species like that to survive within. And I started, meeting these incredible trackers, native trackers, and it was really them that, put me on the right track. And eventually I filmed 2 videos, became very passionate, and took those 2 videos to Fish and Wildlife, thinking, wow, I could really wrap this discovery up in a year. And I think that was back in 2006. And then, I started with the denials and the get out of the office, and we're not ever going to go out with you, and, and the lack of them doing anything at all, and the denial. And, it just pushed me forward. And the miracle that this species exists inspires me in ways that, my God, I got to get leashed up sometimes and chill out, because I spend everything, and I'll work so hard, and I get so devoted because I feel like I'm so close at times.
Mm-hmm.
And it's quite frustrating, but I know what a lot of people, especially researchers in this field, how hard it is, and I just don't know why people do it and work so hard, but it's tough. It's the miracle that this species exists. I mean, for God's sake, the most man-like primate is right out here, right in North America. It's been here the whole time. And the only reason we don't know about them is because they're so amazing and intelligent. And, that just blows my mind. And I think they can really help also facilitate great change, because we've really lost our way from the wilderness. And I think the Sasquatch being so man-like and surviving as an apex species in the wilderness, they can teach us so much and really inspire us to get back to nature and the natural world. My God, these up in British Columbia and Alberta, we just have forest fires every year. Global warming is scaring me, because it never used to be like this, and it's all the way down to California and Seattle, and this is scary stuff. And I hope possibly this discovery can help, give us a little more of a kick in the ass to get back on track to saving this beautiful planet that I love so much.
Would you ever catch one? I don't think you would if you had that chance. I think you would let it go.
Well, you can't really, I can't find a rogue male running around. The possibility of that is like a needle in 10 haystacks. All I study is groups of Sasquatch. So if I went out to a group and captured one, they would kill me. If I went out to a group and tranquilized one, how do you explain to a Sasquatch, hi, I just pointed a gun at your son
and shot you.
He's unconscious, but he's okay. I'm just going to take a blood sample and a tooth. Please don't kill me. And even if you pointed a gun at a Sasquatch, the natives would tell you you're going to take your last breath, because they know what guns are. You don't point a gun at a Sasquatch. I never have, and I never will. And I think, even to go shoot one and bring a body back, people are going to die. I don't care what. You could wear armor, and you could have, the most incredible tactical team. They throw boulders. They're super fast. They're incredibly powerful. You're talking about a primate that can run down an elk and break its neck with their bare hands. These guys are crazy powerful, and they know their environment. So, and when they're a family and they're raised together and they cooperate their whole lives, they have special connections that just technology can't match. To go shoot one would be literally going to war. And if you won that war, you'd literally walk out there, look, I got a Sasquatch body. I had to kill the whole troop of these peaceful, wonderful, incredible beings. They're all dead, but I got this one body, and, look at what a hero I am. I went to war with this peaceful species. So you have to understand that after I filmed with Jeff Meldrum and John Bindernagel, my Discovering Bigfoot documentary, and I went home, the Sasquatch came out and showed themselves, exposed themselves to Jeff Meldrum, came around when John Bindernagel was out there. They didn't have to do that. For them to come out and extend the olive branch and show themselves to us like they did, when I left there, I was teary-eyed. I felt so like they didn't have to do that for me, but they did because they trusted me. And I have such a passion. I feel like the way Jane Goodall talks about chimpanzees, or the love that Diane Fossey had for gorillas. When you're out there in the field, all this time you spend with these incredible beings, you get attached and you have emotions. And so it's even beyond, just go shoot one. I can't, no. I saw for the first time last year, a female exposed herself to me, and she looked exactly like the Patterson female. And I got her tracks, and her tracks match exactly the tracks that they cast for the Patterson film. And this beautiful female went and showed herself, and it's just blown my mind. I know Sasquatch are real, and I saw her, and yet I have trouble believing that I saw her, because it's such a miracle. Like, females they almost never come around and interact with me. They're
right.
I think they just stay in the troop with the big males, the young males that come and play with me, just like human beings, right? And to see her come out and expose herself like that, you know, it almost brought me to tears. I was like, wow, you didn't have to do that, and what a miracle to see that, and I feel so blessed. And now ask me if I want to go shoot one. You know what I mean? After I feel this way and I have this connection.
I try to talk people out when they call the program, Todd, and they say, you know, we're going to go hunting and shoot a Bigfoot. I talk them out of it. I think that's crazy to do that.
I've had many conversations, and I have a lot of haters now, because even like there's a famous tracker that I talked out of going and tracking a Sasquatch so mercenaries could shoot it. I convinced him he was going to die. And I think people, you know, going to war, you think it's going to be easy. They're going to watch you drive up. They're going to see you get out of your vehicles, and they're going to recognize a gun. Baboons recognize guns. You know, like you're talking about a very intelligent primate.
And chimpanzees, they all do. Would you? Some people have said that Sasquatch is dimensional or extraterrestrial. I tend to think it's planetary. It's from this planet. What do you think?
Well, it's so incredibly well evolved. Like, if you watch a wolf or a deer or any wild animal, and they're so amazing in their environment, and I see a Sasquatch, and they're even a level above that. They incorporate all these natural perceptions in with their intellectual abilities. They're more naturally derived for this planet than we are. There was a man, Lloyd Pyle, I think it was, who talked about them as the natural indigenous species, and we're from outer space. And, you know, I don't prescribe to those theories, but when I thought about it, I was like, yeah, they're far more evolved and developed. Take Survivor Man, Les Stroud, one of the toughest SOBs in the wilderness you'll ever meet. If I threw him out in the bush naked, he probably wouldn't survive the month. And again, if I did that with a Sasquatch and you came back in 10 years, he'd be thriving, he'd be fat, he'd be having a great time, he'd be loving it. So who's the indigenous species, right? Maybe ask yourself that question.
Have you ever heard them talking or speaking amongst each other?
No, they're so... What I do know is they have infrasound. They've shocked me with infrasound, stunned me with it. And I've been stunned by gorillas have infrasound. Primatologists don't have it in books and teach it, but if you talk to primatologists like I collaborate with, I mean, I was at the zoo, the Calgary Zoo, and I was knocked out. The primatologist shook me and my wife, woke me up, and they're like, "Are you okay?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I was. What happened?" Well, you got hit with infrasound. That'll stun you. And I'm like, "You know about this?" Like, of course, but you can't quantify it. We don't measure it, so it's not taught in books. And the Sasquatch have hit me with that same thing. And I also believe, therefore, that they can communicate with infrasound amongst each other. And that gives them a horrific advantage over any, like, you know, every military team has a communication device in their ear. And you're talking about sound that'll go 4 times farther and the clarity of it. So, yeah, it's a very good possibility they communicate with their infrasound. And that takes them to a whole new level of don't mess with a Sasquatch. Wow. Because the cooperation you're talking about now is, wow, it's nature, and it's like using sonar to communicate the way a bat would. You know, now you're taking on something that's just, and the levels just keep going up. If I start explaining things to people, I mean, you have no idea. You go try to shoot a Sasquatch. It's, it's really, to be honest, I mean, I love human beings, and I love my people and my culture, but it's pathetically sad if human beings thought they were going to go out into Sasquatch habitat, into their home, where they know every rock and tree, they've watched the trees grow, and you're going to go into their home that they know so well, and they communicate so well, and they're so strong and so fast, and try to shoot one, you're in deep trouble. You're in danger.
I don't even think it's good, Todd, to capture one, because, you know, who are we to go into their environment and pull them out?
Well, yeah, and imagine you capture, you know, one of the sons or the daughters, and when that big male comes around, I'm going home. That's one.
How tall are they?
The big male, the dominant male in the group, is, you know, 9 feet tall approximately, you know, in excess of 800 pounds, and powerful. You know, I'm taking people out on an expedition, and I grind my teeth, and I go, "You see that tree smashed over there?" And they go, "Yeah." I go, "A Sasquatch did that. I'm very convinced." Like, there's no way you couldn't pull that over with I have a 1-ton truck. I couldn't rip that tree over. And yet I show them, you see this and this and that, and look over here at the other end. There's another tree busted over. And look what happened when Buddy came along and chainsawed it. They busted another tree over. Like, this is not happening natural. It's impossible to happen naturally, but it's also impossible to believe that these primates, it must be the whole troop of them are ripping these trees over. I'm talking like trees with, like a 1 foot base, even.
That's huge. Yeah.
You can't tear that out with a truck. And these Sasquatch are pushing that right out of the ground.
And it's got to be 8 feet deep at least, huh?
Yeah, I mean, the power, when you see it, you see the roots are snapped and busted and torn, and you look at the power, and I go, this is like 3 times as strong as a gorilla.
Wow.
And you want to go try to shoot one of them, and you see how fast they are. They actually have things they do. If you ever see a Sasquatch, and he's backed up against a tree, and he's kind of in a squatting position, he's sitting there like a sprinter. And what he'll use that tree like a block, and he'll come out of there. You think gorillas are fast? Oh, my God. A Sasquatch... They'll fly 40 yards as fast as you can blink.
Do you take a rifle out into the woods just for your own safety?
Honestly, I'll be honest with you. I take a handgun. They recognize a rifle. I take a handgun with me and I put it under my jacket. So
all right. So let me ask you this then: if that's a big if a Bigfoot made its move at you, it was coming at you, and you knew you were in trouble.
Yeah.
Would you pull that handgun out on you and protect yourself?
No, I would die. There's no chance.
You would get killed before you would shoot the Bigfoot.
Well, that's your only chance of survival. You pull that gun and you're dead for sure. You pull that gun. It's not just him you're dealing with, though. I go into an area again where there's a group of them.
They're going to
attack you. The one in front of you is the least of your worries. It's the ones on the sides that have boulders pointed at you. They throw those things accurately over 100 yards.
So they have the intelligence to say, that's that guy. Get him.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, yeah. If they ever came for me, that's it. It's over. The native translation for it in multiple native languages, if you upset a Sasquatch, take your last breath. And I agree. You will die that fast. You will disappear. Nobody will ever find your body. There'll be nothing left of you. That's why when a Sasquatch, like when the 17-inch track, the big male comes around, if he's aggressive, I leave and I don't come back. If he's going to continuously be aggressive with me, I better leave because he would kill me like snapping his fingers. He'd crush me. So,
tell me if you think this is true. Years ago, I had open lines, and I had a caller who said he was fishing in the woods at a little lake, and a Bigfoot, he said, came upon him. And he said, scared the living daylights out of him, was looking at him. He had caught 2 fish, the guy did.
Yeah.
And he's holding the 2 fish, and the Bigfoot looks at him, looks at the fish. The guy hands Bigfoot the 2 fish. Mm-hmm. And the creature apparently takes them, looks at him, gives him one back. You think that's a true story?
Right to me. You know what? Oh, my God. That's when I go out and I leave apples, this is what just happened recently. I tell you, I have goosebumps right now. Even it happened with Jeff Meldrum in the documentary. When there's 2 of us and we go out and put out 11 apples, they leave 2. If I go out there with 4 people and we leave 12 apples, they leave 4. It's been happening to me all year this year. And you know what? Just based on that information, I mean, even Jeff was like, why is there 2 apples? Well, the 2 of us put them out, and he goes, really? I go, dude, they do it all the time. And of course, he hasn't had more time to be out with me, but you see Sasquatch tracks and Sasquatch signs, and they, John and I and another person go out, 3 of us, and we leave, 12 apples or 13. It doesn't matter the number. They always leave for the number of people that were there. And
so the fish story could be a real story.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's actually like a native custom too. When you give a gift, you share a gift. It's just it holds water to me actually, because even with I was giving Sasquatch apples in my main British Columbia radium research site, and they were spearing fish and putting fish back in there. They were trading with me because they spear fish. And
remarkable.
I found that they do that, and it's a trade they do, and but you have to be. I bet you have to be a good person. You have to have something. You have to be special. You have to be a very special person for a Sasquatch to have that kind of connection. You have to be clean, and you have to have just something about you that's. I don't know how to explain it. Some people, you take them out, they're twitchy, they have all this inner turmoil. And you can feel that energy is just not good, and a Sasquatch just won't come around and won't be interested in that person, and probably wouldn't share a gift with that person. So I would tell him, I mean, it's not my decision to say whether he did it or not. I'm not a Sasquatch critic, but if that did happen to him, you know what I would say to him? If you're telling the truth, congratulations. What a miraculous experience.
Oh,
you
absolutely.
Just communicated with this incredibly beautiful, amazing creature, and he gave you a fish. Like, I have goosebumps right now just thinking about it. Can you imagine that happening? That would be just... And that seems like Sasquatch behavior.
It was a great story. Might they be prehistoric still?
Well, no, they're evolving just like us. I mean, that's scary too. Is they're getting better at what they do. They have no technology. They don't start fires or ride horses, or So they're living out there in the wilderness, and they're getting stronger and better adapted at it. Just in nature, and the strong survive, and all those kind of rules apply to them. If your baby is weak and can't survive in the cold, it dies. And we don't really have that anymore. It's just everybody survives now, and technology saves everybody. And, it's arguable to say what it's doing to humanity, but to them, they live in the world of natural laws, and they get stronger and fitter. And, I think there's even a change with this new younger Sasquatch. I've been interacting with Sasquatch since this one particular, since he was 5 years old. Now he's 14, and he's huge. He's a new generation, and I have this new relationship that I built with him that even the natives didn't do. The natives had rules to stay away from Sasquatch and don't interact with them. Even it's bad luck to see a Sasquatch, don't even look at them. And this new Sasquatch and me are building this new relationship, and I think he gets excited when I come. I took out Survivor Man, and Les is like, I'm down the hill with him. He's like, so what kind of sounds? I go, well, when my guy comes around, you'll hear, hey, hey. And
that's how they sound. Hold on, Todd. We're at the top of the hour. We'll come back for more in a moment on Coast to Coast AM. Okay, we're going to take your phone calls this hour and continue chatting with Todd Standing about his litigation to try to get Sasquatch recognized. There's a lady in California also suing the California Department of Fish and Wildlife. Todd may be part of that, too. We'll check in with him on that when we come back on Coast to Coast AM. And welcome back to Coast. Todd Standing with us here. Todd, Claudia Ackley was suing California's Fish and Wildlife on Bigfoot as well. Whatever happened to that case? That was back in February.
Yeah, that's our case, Claudia and I. She's
you're part of that one too?
Colleague.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I found her. Fortunately, she's had an incredible Sasquatch sighting right close to her home that was just amazing. But she's such a hard worker. What happened was through the help of the media, we were able to find a lawyer, because believe me, phoning lawyers and even paying them, nobody wants to do anything with Sasquatch. But when my movie came out and I was asking, to do this court case and looking for a lawyer, one did call me, and he was amazing. He talked my ear off about how this is going to be the crowning jewel of his legal career, and he's got credentials, and he's amazing, and I was so excited. But what he insisted upon is that we drop the lawsuit as we started it, because, we don't really know what we're doing. We're not lawyers. And in his opinion, it was poorly done. So even though I had spent $10,000 and Claudia and I had been working for months, we dropped the whole case for him to redo it. Well, he didn't talk to me for 6 months. And then this Canadian case came up. And again, it was being pushed so hard I couldn't delay it. So I called him and I said, look, I'm going to have to tell the media, I need to get some quote for what's going on with the California case, because the Canadian case is getting pushed so fast. And he replied, I won't be bullied like this, and I can't work under this pressure, and I quit. So after all that money and all that time we spent waiting for him, he ended up having no intestinal fortitude whatsoever. He quit on us the first opportunity. And I can't complain, because I didn't pay him anything. He was going to do hundreds of thousands of dollars of work for free. And so now I have to save up again. And when Claudia and I have the money, we'll redo the case that we worked very hard on and started up. Because I would do the California case tomorrow. It's just a matter of nobody funds this. I have to save up, and if people want to complain that I'm not working fast enough, go make a donation. And
make a donation. That's right. Right.
You know what I mean?
So basically there are two cases: California and British Columbia.
Right, for now. And
now.
My work is, I'm sharing it with everybody. You want to see what I've written up. You want to see the paperwork and what we've done. If somebody wants to do this in Washington or Alberta or Montana, anywhere that the biggest thing I need to do is, and I didn't do the California case until I'd seen a Sasquatch and filmed the Sasquatch in California, because at the end of the case, I have to say, come with me and I will show you a Sasquatch. Well, I can do that in California, Montana, and Washington in the United States, and I can do it in Alberta, British Columbia, and Canada. So if people are going to go beyond that scope, I need to come out there, or somebody needs to show me some sort of repeatability, because you can't just win the case and say, okay, Fish and Wildlife, go figure it out. Oh, wait, you don't have any primatologists or trackers. Good luck. You know what I mean? It gives us a dead end. We have to go to a place where somebody can repeatedly get out there and interact with and show me there's a Sasquatch troop, or I'll do it, and then we can pursue the court case. I would never allow it to transpire without those parameters.
Let's make an assumption, Todd, just for a moment, that people are definitely seeing something, that we don't know exactly what it is, but they're not lying, that they're seeing something. So why, under that basis, don't these fish and wildlife departments in British Columbia, California, Michigan, Washington, wherever, why don't they simply say, we want to get some answers too? You would think that would be the logical thing to do.
Well, even you get retired guys that are coming out going, I was studying Sasquatch, I know all about this. There's tons of videos on it and records of retired wildlife officers that are talking, but that's not the official position. And to be honest, I can't speak for it. I mean, is the industry, is forestry going to get damaged so much? Is, oil and gas going to get damaged? I don't know. I don't want that. I really don't want that. Whoever's listening to me right now who is probably involved in this, please, I don't want that. I really think we could smooth this over and work without damaging industry or taking people's jobs. I don't want to do that. It's not necessary. And we can smoothly make this discovery. And I think there's something else going on here that I don't really like talking about, but primates like chimpanzees and gorillas are on the verge of being proven as sentient, and then you can't put them in zoos and they're like a people. Primatologists are trying to prove this. Well, I'm talking about a bipedal, the most man-like creature, highly intelligent tracker. What do you think is going to happen when we realize how intelligent they are and what it,
And they have rights.
And now that's a whole other issue, right? Now that becomes, do they have land rights? So, maybe that's part of the problem, but that's not really. You have to understand, once the species is known and studied properly by universities, I'm out. Like I'm a footnote. Have a good day. I'm done. The expeditions have nearly killed me a dozen times. I have seriously badly damaged lungs from having hypothermia 30, 40 times. My knees and my hips falling from rock climbing, and my body is beaten and bruised and busted. That there's not much more I can contribute to this. My time is almost done. I'm 45.
I get it. Todd, look at the various races we have for human beings. I mean, we've got all kinds. Why can't we assume for a moment that Sasquatch might be another race of human being?
Yeah, no, I don't. We're not going to talk Homo sapien. I would disagree with that, because they're so exceptional, George. Like they're fast and powerful. They're incredible, powerful human beings, and they can't hold a candle to a gorilla. And I'm saying Sasquatch are double the strength of a gorilla. Like, they really are separate. They really are. I mean, there's even in the DNA that's out there might be some human strands in there, and I don't really want to get into that with breeding with humans and all that stuff. It becomes very offensive. But what's there right now, what I see right now, is so body hair composition to survive in the winter. Do you know, up in the cold, in the north where I live, minus 40, if you're running around naked minus 40, you're a dead man in a day. You are.
I would think minus 20, you're a dead man running around naked.
Dead. And these guys are living and flourishing it. They don't have fire, no technology. I don't care what cave they're hiding in. It's cold. And they survive with their body composition and their body hair. Humans are so completely unable and incapable of that you're really talking, Homo sapiens, in my mind, it's right off the list. So on so many levels, I mean, even when you look at them, I know if you remove the hair, you can see nose and eyes that are similar, but there's body fat, there's power, there's weight to the bones, power in the leg. The foot anatomy that Jeff Meldrum has backwards and forwards, there's a mid-tarsal joint in the foot. We don't have a joint like that.
Jeez.
Our foot's not flat.
Have you ever come across a Bigfoot house or hut or anything like that?
Oh, yeah, many times. Yeah, I've seen little... I think likely those are being done by rogue males because if you go into a group, like a family group, you can't get near their main area because they defend it. The children are probably there, the young, right? The females. So when I start getting into an area and they get aggressive and angry, that's time to back off because you're getting into home area. But when there's a rogue male or maybe even a rogue female moving from group to group, I've seen shelters that are very, very significant, and I'm firmly convinced they are done by Sasquatch just based on where they are and the power it would take to build them. And
what are they? Is there any intelligence behind it? I mean, do they look like they have cots or beds or anything?
Well, just the way they weave. I don't know if you'd call that intelligence, but it's a spider builds a beautiful, intricate web. Is it intelligent? But with the structures that I'm seeing, and again that I've showcased on Survivor Men and in my documentary, they're trying to communicate something through those structures that's very intricate and intelligent. I'm very convinced of that. There are just things that are going on there, and I'm talking to new PhDs that are, forming hypotheses on what they're trying to communicate. It's pretty, the way they build them and the way they twist things and move them and bend them. There seems to be a pattern there that's coming out that I'm just seeing right now. And even especially as of this year, we have a new medical doctor PhD that's working with us, and he came up with some theories that just blew my mind. I was like, wow, that's brilliant, and it seems to actually hold water. So even in the structures, I think when another Sasquatch comes along and see the structure, he'll go, oh, there's 6 in the troop. This is the mother and the father, and this one's this old and that one's not here. Just there's so much going on with those structures that won't surprise me. The level of intelligence will just be quite exceptional.
You had mentioned that if you got close to their living environment because of the children and everything else, they'd get very angry with you. Has that happened?
Oh, yes. How
did they show their anger towards you?
Well, what I did is I did something I don't think has ever been done before. I put on a neoprene fishing suit and some special leg warmers, and I walked in a creek in -20 for 10 miles. And I did it through a snowstorm, so I was able to get into that main group area. But what happened was when they discovered me, the first thing, it's actually the photograph you have up on your website, I call that video 4, that's a female. I believe she was the last line of defense before the young. She was there looking around for me, and eventually when they discovered me, what they did was they pulled me out of my ghillie suit kind of cloak that I have, and I stood up and I wanted to go get a size comparison to how big she was and up in the spot she was at. So I went to walk towards it, and a rock hit me it felt like a .22 bullet had hit me in the back of the leg, and I hit the ground right below my glute, and I was writhing in pain for 10 minutes. I could barely stand again. So I get up because I'm not very smart. I'm a dumbass human being. And what do? I go and take a couple more steps towards where I want to go look at that Sasquatch, and a boulder misses my head by inches, whips by my head, and explodes on the mountain in front of me.
Jeez.
And I stop and I go, wait a second. I think he's trying to tell me stop going that way because maybe the next one won't miss. You know what I mean?
They have that kind of accuracy, huh?
Yeah, oh, absolutely. I mean, I hope that boulder was trying to miss my head by 2 inches, But again, they didn't attack me. They threw these 2 rocks at me, and I really, and I heard the growling and the stomping and the bashing, and I thought, you know what? They're pretty upset that I'm here. I'm going to turn around and go back down. And if I go the wrong way, a log comes down the hill. Oh, go left, not right. Okay, I'm going to go this way. Oh, now a big boulder comes that way. Oh, okay, they want me to go down to the gully and not over by the river. So, they move you, and if you have the sense to understand what they're saying, you move. Or if you're not going to listen to them, I never had the 3rd rock thrown at me because when the rock exploded in front of me, it was a boulder, and debris hit my face and hurt me. I was thinking, you know what? I don't want that to hit my head or my body.
Oh, man, it'd crack your skull.
Yeah, so you gotta use your head and feel what you think. And I felt the animosity and the anger, and I was grateful they didn't kill me because they could have. And I walked on out of that habitat after that without ever having sized up how big that female was or even where she was and how she was moving. I never got that because I chose life.
Let's go to our international line. Joe's in British Columbia, Canada. Go ahead, Joe.
Oh, hi, George.
Hey, Joseph.
Hi to your guest.
He's from your neck of the woods.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to give you some information about the population of Bigfoot and Sasquatch.
All right.
according to my ET source.
Your ET source, okay.
Yes, the population of the Bigfoot in Canada and USA is about 35,000.
35,000, okay.
Yeah, about 8,000 in Canada and 27,000 in USA. There are more in USA.
That would surprise me.
Yeah.
Based on the fact that Canada is so wide and vast, and they're all the way into Ontario, Manitoba, and there's so much terrain up towards Alaska, I would have guesstimated quite likely there'd be more in Canada. And the population in the United States, I mean, they have 10 times the people, but I don't know. You know, mine is just a theory.
Well, you estimated originally, Todd, 15,000 total in North America.
Yeah. So, you know,
so he's almost double that.
Yeah. So I have a little bit of science behind it, but, you know, either way, it could be good. I don't know. You know, I'd love to hear how he came about this data and these numbers.
He's got ET contacts. They talk to him. What else have they told you, Joe? Joseph?
Sasquatch population is 7,000 in USA and Canada.
27,000, you said?
No, 7,000, just 7,000.
Oh, 7 total.
Yeah, the Sasquatch are less in the United States and Canada. The most populated Sasquatch are in China.
Yetis.
About 35,000 in China.
Wow, all the way up into Russia too. Yeah, they would be all connected.
Yeah, and these ETs that tell you this, how do they come to you?
No, I am telepathically connected to them.
Ah, okay.
Telepathic communication. And then we got Bigfoot in Russia is about 8,000. And then Sasquatch in Russia, about 1,000 to 1,300. And then
how many total on the planet?
Well, you got to total them up. I didn't total them up yet.
Okay, you do it. I'm not going to do it.
Bigfoot in Europe is 4,000. Sasquatch in Europe, 800 to 1,000. So the most populated are in China. Sasquatch.
All right, go ahead, Todd.
How many do you think are in Sweden? I was just there. I don't think there's any there. Do you think there's any in Sweden?
Any in Sweden, Joe?
See, hold on 1 second. Yes.
There's some there. How many? He's reaching them telepathically here.
About 700, 800.
Wow.
700 or 800, Todd. All right, thanks, Joe, for those numbers.
They're already there at all.
But you know what? He could be close with numbers total, huh? What do you think?
Yeah, I have no idea. I used scientific data and numbers, and I get mentored by some pretty cool PhDs and biologists that have some interesting science. But
you do it with science in mind.
Yeah, but it could be any number. I wouldn't be surprised if I was not even close. But you have to start with a theory.
It can't be a lot because we're not seeing a lot of them.
Yeah, well, and I'm kind of shocked, and I remember I went to I wanted a week off. I just did Survivor Man. I was going to go film with Jeff Meldrum a week after, and wanted a week off to just go hang out in the wilderness with no Sasquatch. And I went to Yoho National Park for a bike ride, and I was whooping because there were bears around eating the berries, and I got charged by a Sasquatch. And I was like, "Not today, I don't want this. Go away. My Sasquatch week off. Leave me alone." And then I went home and told my wife I was charged by a bloody Sasquatch.
What was he going to do if he caught you?
I think he was just mad because I was whooping like a Sasquatch, and he wanted me to knock it off. But
he was going to knock you off.
Yeah, I just thought, like, damn, I wanted some time off, and I'm thinking, how many are really out there? Like, this is crazy. How many people have an experience with Sasquatch and don't even know it? Because every time I show someone, like Survivor Man, when he's watching it on his episode, he sits there and people don't listen to the little things. The little things are so important. He says, "You know what? I've heard these sounds before. This has happened to me before. I'm sure of it." And so many wilderness experts I go out with, they go, "Oh, I've heard this, like multiple little cracking sounds and different." And I go, "What did you think it was?" Can't be wolves. They don't move around you like that. They don't crack like that. It's not a bear. Bears aren't in groups. Like, what the hell? Did you think a group of deer were coming around your fire and bashing around in the woods from 3 or 4 different directions at the same time? And people go, "Well, it's such a stretch to say Sasquatch, and I get it. But the truth is the truth. When you hear something bashing around in the bush, multiple individuals, you go look and there's large bipedal tracks in the ground. It quacks like a dog, walks like a dog.
It's got to be one. It's got to be one indeed. Hey, Todd, stay with us. We're going to come back in just a moment and take more phone calls. Those of you on hold, we'll get to you as quickly as we can. Our special guest tonight, Todd Standing, talking about his work in the field of Sasquatch. And, of course, he has started a lawsuit in British Columbia, and there's one going on that'll pick up again in California. And welcome back to Coast. George Norrie with you. Todd Standing with us as we talk about Sasquatch and Bigfoot. Todd, why can't we get some kind of definitive evidence of Bigfoot? What's the latest with this DNA thing?
Well, DNA is just pointing in the direction of, the unknown primate. DNA can't be faked. It can't be hoaxed. And there's too many questions in it that I don't know. It leads to clearly evidence and proof of an unknown primate species. It's so hard. Ideally, I wanted to gather multiple samples and be able to go and have evidence to say, look, this is the dad, this is the mother. But even, the biggest problem isn't even getting the DNA. It's getting a bloody geneticist to test it and then actually come out and talk about it. So, like the famous Todd Discovering. I was Facebooking him for months, and I was all excited, and I had some DNA, and then he started testing other people's. Jeff Meldrum was like, please test Todd's. He's a colleague of mine. Please. John Bindernagel, same thing. You got to test Todd's stuff. And suddenly somebody said, came up with some terrible excuse. And Todd's like, I'm not talking to him anymore. And, and even some people will test it. I had a university that I won't mention test it. And they came back and said, you were never here, and we're not talking about the test. Because, again, now the university has to take responsibility for, to them, it's like, we discovered a unicorn, and now we have to talk about unicorns or Santa Claus. And I wish they wouldn't treat it like that, because I wish somebody would get excited and go, hey, this is an amazing new discovery. Let's go talk about it. And so, even with Melba Ketchum,
what do you think of her work?
Well, I tried to sort of stay away from it because we had I worked with her in the field, and she's not a field person, and I'm not a lab guy, so we just didn't. You didn't
mesh together, I guess.
To say the least. I'm just boots on the ground. I'm a wilderness tracker, and she's not that. However, I just went on an expedition with that medical doctor, Dr. John, and he's really convinced me that I should use that DNA evidence, and he's got
that was Bindernagel?
No, this is just a new. Actually, John passed away last year, but this is a new doctor. And anyways, he's a medical doctor. But like I say, he's got a background in genetics. He's really pushing this paper on me and saying I should really use it. So what I asked him to do was call her and make sure it's okay. I have permission, because I won't just steal something from somebody. I know it's in the zoo bank and everything, but it's hers. She did it. If she gives me permission to use it, I would like to add it as evidence, because at this point, I've read the paper myself, and the science seems, it's not even her science. She had all her results verified by multiple different other genetic laboratories, and they're all saying the same thing. So, and to think that she has legit DNA testing done that's real, and everybody's ostracized her and not supported her, and just basically didn't even come to anything. There was no news about it. Nobody really cared. And, that sucks. So if I can add that to my repertoire, because I also have DNA, but not full genome DNA, just a simple genetic test.
We have to get the real deal. That's it. That's what it's going to come down to.
But I think she actually has that, and she's done that. The full mitochondria. I'm not a genetic. I'm not an expert by any means, but it seems that she has it done properly. And again, I have to check with some of my colleagues and make them look at the paper a little harder. And if it passes with them, because my colleagues are showing up to the court case, and they're the backbone. When Jeff Meldrum comes and testifies, he'll be there for 2 days, and they better sit down and listen, because that man is brilliant. His work is authentic and legitimate. For God's sake, he actually has the tracks accepted by the scientific community of the tracks of a living being.
Yep, he's the best. Let's go to Robert in Chicago here. Take a few more calls while we can, Todd. Robert, sure. Go ahead.
Thank you, George. Yes, Todd, listen, you're going to have to come up with proof People just do not believe in Bigfoot. A lot of people, I should say, do not believe in Bigfoot. Even with the Patterson film, Bob Hernanimus, I'm probably pronouncing his name wrong.
Hieronymus?
And I know you don't think too much about the lie detector test, but he passed it. He said he was in that suit. People will never believe you, Todd, until you can come up with proof, a body, even a live one in the trip. Look at all these people that are out there hunting Bigfoot. They have a television show on now where they have these 5 or 6 guys. They look like they all weigh 400 pounds. All they do is fall over each other. They never find anything. It's a big joke.
It is.
Where's the evidence, I guess he's saying, Todd?
Well, but when I have DNA, I have physical evidence, the track evidence, eyewitness accounting. That's enough to put a human being in jail beyond a reasonable doubt, and I have more than that. I don't just have regular eyewitness like Jeff Meldrum's seen them. I have police officers, fishery officers, and I do have the DNA. If this was in a court of law that should be beyond a reasonable doubt, they kill people for beyond a reasonable doubt in some states. So I have far beyond a reasonable doubt, and that should be enough. I'm not asking people to believe me. I'm saying come out with me in the wilderness and I will show you a Sasquatch. That's what I do. And I can take Fish and Wildlife out. I can show them a Sasquatch. It's 2018. There's a gibbon species that was recognized based on DNA. Why can't we do that with Sasquatch? The answers are here, and it's a simple solution. I just need Fish and Wildlife to buck up. I'll take any officer out in Fish and Wildlife in any of the states I mentioned or provinces, and I will show them a Sasquatch. They'll come back and they'll be like, oh my God, they're absolutely real. They'll film a Sasquatch with me in 3 months. So I am extremely confident, and that is more than enough.
How often do you find the tracks, Todd?
In my research sites, all the time. Every time I go out, there are tracks. I know exactly where to go. I know where they drink water. I know how they hunt, and I look and show people the new tracks and new tree breaks, new structures, and almost every time I take people out on an expedition, I have a 90% success rate. They live interact with a Sasquatch.
That's amazing.
A 40% success rate that they see a Sasquatch. Did you watch Survivor Man? He filmed the top of a head of a Sasquatch. Or my documentary, Discovering Bigfoot, in 3 days. Jeff Meldrum, for the first time in his life, clearly witnessed a Sasquatch walking. This is what I do. These are the facts. These are undeniable. Jeff Meldrum is an honest man. If he ever saw that I was deceiving in any way, he'd never talk to me again. And he saw a Sasquatch walking after we were live interacting with it. It's out
because there are some in that field, Todd, that will deceive you.
Sure. But the thing is, I'm not saying the Patterson film, hey, it happened once, it'll never happen again. I can repeatedly, continuously do this. And I pass every time. There's never been anybody that went out with me and said, this guy's hoaxing or is... I pass. I passed with Survivor Man is an elite, amazing, honest guy. And, listen to what he has to say about me, So,
oh, no, you've got the credentials. You've got the reputation. I don't think you do anything sleight of hand. Some people would probably think, all right, he's got a buddy dressed up in a Bigfoot costume, and he threw him out in the woods out there somewhere. But that's kind of dangerous to even try to do that because you never know.
Listen to this. Last year, one of the guys who saw a Sasquatch on my expedition went out to go to the bathroom with a shotgun loaded with the safety off, shined the light in the face of a Sasquatch, and it growled at him. This is like a big black guy with a martial arts instructor. He pulled that shotgun off his thing and walked away from the Sasquatch. And I'll tell you, if that was my buddy in a suit, and what it can't be, I mean, he saw the Sasquatch's face and his eyes. But if it was, that guy's a moron.
He's dead.
You know what I mean? That when Stefan came out of the bush, he said, 50-50, I pulled the trigger even by accident. If that was your buddy out there, you're not paying him enough.
He's dead.
I mean?
And by the way, the person who did the shooting could not be charged for murder because, he thought it was a Bigfoot attacking him or something.
Sure. I thought it was some kind of animal. The guy's dressed up in a suit, and I shot at it, Totally valid.
Not smart. Kevin in Des Moines, Iowa. Go ahead, Kev.
Yeah, hello. I'm 60 now, and this happened to me when I was 8 years old in Brennan County, Kentucky.
Hey, 52 years ago. You remember this, huh? Go ahead.
Oh, yeah, very vividly. We were visiting my uncle, and he lives on a small farm in a remote area. And he told me of a trail that led back to an old homestead where there were some apple trees, and he gave me a knapsack and told me to go see if there were any ripe apples. Well, I picked the bag about half full and started back through the woods, and I stepped into a clearing, and about 20 feet away from me, I can only describe it as about 8 feet tall, very hairy. Kind of surprised look on his face, same as mine, and couldn't figure out what to do. And there was a deadfall tree between us, and I noticed he was looking at the apples in my hand, one I was chewing on. And I sat down beside the deadfall and set a couple of apples on it, and surprisingly enough, he came over and sat down next to me and started eating the apples.
Jeez.
And after about 2 minutes or so, he grabbed one off. I just kept setting them up there because he was eating them faster than I was. But he picked one up and held it out behind him. And maybe 20 feet away was a second one right at the tree line who was hesitant to come out. And finally, it walked up within 10 feet of us, and it was obviously a very pregnant female.
Jeez, what a story. Kevin, what did their face look like?
Almost human with a heavy brow, very pronounced chin, large teeth.
Did they have that gorilla face look?
No, not really.
And Todd, based on your experience, would you say about the same thing?
What'd you notice about the hands?
The hands. What about the hands, Kevin?
4 fingers and a thumb, same as ours. Very thick.
Nothing weird about the
obviously very well muscled.
Yeah, that's never even close to, like, that would be my dream, that of all dreams, to have that happen, but I've never even
sit down and share apples with him, huh?
Yeah, no, never anything even close. Like, that's what.
Kevin, did he smell?
No, not really.
Okay.
They'll smell when they're
kind of like a dog. Just hairy.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
No real
Are they clean, Todd?
Well, yeah. I mean, they'll smell like a gorilla. Like urine will literally drip out of their pores when they're feeling hostile. So there's a difference between what I call an acute smell, like it's like a sweet smell, they're angry right now, and then that old musty smell that they've been smelly for a long time. But the vast majority of them that I interact with, there's really, unless they're very angry at me, which is a bad day, there's really no odor because they're confident and they're not afraid of me. So I don't get smells very often. But when I do, when I'm out with an expedition, I go, that's a Sasquatch smell. Everybody pay attention, because it's like a gorilla expert saying, hey, I smell gorillas, or a horse person, that's a horse. They have a definitive smell of their own, and nothing else in the wilderness smells like it, and I can clearly recognize it.
Kevin, thanks for your story. Appreciate it. And, I got to tell you, he sounds very, very compelling and believable, doesn't he?
Mm-hmm. If that happened, I mean, my God, congratulations. That would be mine and 100,000 other people's dream come true. So, yeah. Amazing.
That and the fish story. Steve in Eugene, Oregon, welcome to the show. Hi, Steve. First-time caller. Steve, still with us? Nope, there is no Steve. But let's try Bill, truck driving in California. Hey, Bill, welcome to the program.
Hey, how's it going, George? Hey, Todd. Hey, I have a question about, in Indonesia, there's supposedly an orang pendek, and it is euphemistically called the Littlefoot. Is it possible, just as humans, before, Homo sapiens sapiens, we're the great tool maker, but before we started, changing our environment through tool creation, we were subject to, our size and everything was subject to our environment. And, is it possible that the heavily forested areas of Asia are hiding or obscuring a smaller physical form of the Bigfoot?
Is there a smaller Yeti out that way, Bill, Todd?
Well, I have no experience there, but what I would always do is I would go talk to the indigenous people that have lived there for thousands of years, and if it's in their oral history, and if they say it's real, I'd believe them. Like in a New York Minute, I'd believe them. Like when I went to Sweden, and there's no oral history of any Sasquatch there. The Vikings didn't talk about it. I don't think there's Sasquatch in Sweden. So it's about the indigenous people. I like listening to them because they really know their stuff. They've lived there for a long time, and no scientist, no tracker is going to know like them. So if the indigenous people say so, then I'm on board 100%.
Let's go to George in Apollo, Pennsylvania. Hey, George, go ahead.
Hey there. Good to see you, Todd. Listen, I got a bird sanctuary built like an igloo on my farm with the laydown of a Bigfoot. And of course, I did see the Bigfoot. It was a brown Bigfoot on my farm. Got the footprint, simian crease measured by a PhD out of Duquesne University, and it had an outhouse smell. And I felt I was on a tractor. Well, I wasn't on the tractor. I was putting a fence in, and it sent out a feeling that put fear in you. You had no control of your body. It made me get on my tractor, in a sense, and start to drive away. And when it went the opposite direction, I recovered. I said, "No, I'm going inside." I drove after it, tried to catch up, but I didn't see it. Laid down 2 trees over our trails and grubbed dead wood with these big fat grubs inside it. And then the investigator said there was male, female, and a young one. And it had taken 15 chickens and laid them out and broke the necks or something like that. And then it went back to look. My son saw that, and we come back next day, and there was 3 left. And you explain why? Because I have 3 kids that were out in the woods.
See, they know how to count. They know how to count well, Todd.
You know what sucks about that story, though, is when a wild creature has to come into civilization, like, for example, the orcas are doing that now in British Columbia. They only come there because they're starving and they're having difficulties in their own ecosystem, and that's only because we're consuming it and there's no space left for them. And that's what would concern me the most about that story, is how they're not finding abundance in their own home where they're born and raised, and that they have to come and take your chickens. That's not a good sign in nature when animals have to do that.
No, not at all. Todd, keep updating us, if you would, on this lawsuit in Canada. That, to me, is fascinating. Todd Standing has been our special guest.